July 27th, 2024. No trailer, no movie announcement, just a beloved actor stepping out from behind a new mask. New mask, same task. Robert Downey Jr. was announced to be returning to the MCU as Doctor Doom, and the reaction was immediate. The MCU is desperate, nostalgia bait, money grab. People were genuinely furious as if Marvel had personally disrespected something they cared about. And to be truthful, I can see why. Since the end of Phase 3, Marvel has put out content like a slot machine, heavily focused on quantity over quality, which was a drastic shift from their strategic releases leading up to Endgame. So it makes sense why people are uneasy about potential character assassinations of characters that inspired them for nearly 2 decades. But to not give the Russo Brothers, who created some of the greatest superhero films in MCU history, the trust they deserve seems absurd to me. Because I think the people making that argument are missing something far more interesting. RDJ being cast as Doctor Doom is one of the most brilliant casting decisions Marvel has ever made because Doom is exactly who Tony Stark would have been without the people he loved grounding him. Probably the most well-known example is when Tony says, "I see a suit of armor around the world." In the moment, we don't question it too hard as we know Iron Man's intentions. He's a savior of humanity and does what he can to protect the place he calls home. However, let's say a character like Doom said something similar. It wouldn't be too out of place if he used that ideology to justify his effort for control and conquest. I mean, we already saw what happens when Tony tries to go beyond human comprehension in Age of Ultron. His own willingness to save the world created consequences that cascaded for multiple films afterwards. Similarly, in Civil War, Tony couldn't give up being Iron Man, so he lost the one woman he could confide in, Pepper. The truth is, Tony had people who grounded him throughout the series. Pepper, Peter, the kid he never admitted he saw as a son, and even Steve Rogers acted as the conscience he fought against but couldn't exist without. If Tony needed those around him to stay grounded, what happens to that same mind in a world where none of them exist? In comes Doctor Doom, a character who time and time again puts his godly intellect into all of his decisions, with no emotional intelligence to weigh on his conscience. Imagine, Avengers Doomsday is in its early stages, and Doctor Doom invades the TVA in search of information regarding Earth 616. In comes a scene similar to the one in Loki Season 1, where Mobius shows Loki his potential for good. In Doom's research, he finds a man who sacrifices his own mind and body to protect those around him. A consciousness who constantly surrenders himself even when it costs him personal gain. In a twist, it's revealed to be his own variant. Instead of the warm moment Loki has watching his life on tape, the camera pans to Doom with a look of sheer disgust. Disgust in his body for disobeying the pride he carries, an absolute betrayal of who he is and what he represents. Doom would consider himself contaminated having watched Tony act in such selfless ways. If Doctor Doom is built the way the Russo brothers have built villains before, the next 2 Avengers films will revolutionize superhero cinema. Think about Christopher Nolan and The Dark Knight. On the surface, it's a Batman movie. But the reason it's still praised to this day is because of the philosophical confrontation between Batman and the Joker, order and chaos. This conflict was built so well that people are still talking about it nearly 2 decades later. The Joker didn't need to be connected to Batman's origin to matter. Similarly, Doom doesn't need to be connected to any other character to matter. He just needs to be so completely himself that the collision between Doom and the Avengers feels inevitable. The MCU has been in a drought of consequence, with the Thunderbolts and Fantastic Four being refreshing releases as we felt both built towards something greater. Doom, as we described him, a man of maximum intelligence and zero emotional wisdom, cold and absolutely certain, is the final brick of this great wall. With Kevin Feige resetting the MCU after Secret Wars, this is the moment that will either define the next saga or preemptively destroy it. And I genuinely believe the Russo brothers know that. With all of this being said, keep your mind ready for a cinematic catastrophe of emotion. The Russo brothers clearly have a creative vision, and the last time we saw their vision, Iron Man died. These are the directors who kept the MCU's rhythm going with The Winter Soldier, Civil War, Infinity War, and Avengers Endgame. This movie will have major consequences that will ripple through the MCU for generations. Doom is coming.